Good morning. Today I'm talking about before you end your life. Don't you think before you end your life, you ought to give it a real chance? This is for people who are suffering severe depression, trauma, things they don't think they can overcome, and are thinking about ending their life. It's also appropriate for anybody who is just suffering depression or anxiety. I think you'll find this video helpful. But, think about it. Death is forever. Don't you really think before you make that choice that you ought to do everything in your power to give you a chance of living a full and happy life? I lead a support group, and in that support group, a lot of people come in without hope. They don't think they have a future. They don't think that, you know, they that they could ever live a full and happy life. And then they spend 3 to 6 months in the support group. They develop strong hope, and their life begins to change and turn around. So, don't you really think that before you make a decision that's going to be forever, that you make the decision to give it every single thing you have to learn to live a full and happy life? Before I get started, I'd like to share with you, because not everybody, uh, stays all the way through a video, is that my 3 books I have made for free for anybody who watches this video. Yes, I like to sell my books, but your life is much more important to me than making money. And so there's a link in the description for the video where you can download, any of my materials for free. I'd like to start off with a little bit about myself. I have suffered depression for 17 plus years. There was a good period of that time in which I was suicidal. A very large percentage of that time, I didn't care if I lived, but I wasn't quite suicidal. I wasn't thinking I wanted to die. I just didn't care if I could live, if I did live. Well, my sister a few years ago ended her life with suicide. She had been suicidal for many years. The one big difference is I chose to find a way to live a life that was full and rich. It wasn't easy. If you've suffered depression, anxiety, or the results of extreme trauma, you know what I'm talking about. You know it's not easy. You know what the emotional pain is like 24/7. You know what it's like to wake up in pain, live in pain all day long, and go to bed in pain, and wake up during the middle of the night in physical and emotional pain. You know what that's like. And it's not an easy thing to overcome, but it can be. I tried to get my sister help, but she just didn't want it. Uh, and she was bipolar. She refused to take her drugs. She refused to do the things that she needed to do to get better. She was an alcoholic. She went into rehab, over 8 different times, and every time she would stay 1, 2, or 3 days, and turn around and walk out the door. She just would not do the things that she needed to do to give her a chance of living a full and happy life. My desire for you is that you learn to live a full and happy life. This begins with developing hope. That's hard to hear when you feel hopeless, when you feel there is no hope. I mentioned I lead a support group. The first night that of the support group, we had, I think, 11 people there. Uh, 8 of them became regulars. 2 young men that were brothers both made statements like, I don't see that my life will ever be any different than it is now. And here we are 6 years later, and their lives are not any better than they were there. Now, the 8 who stayed, all saw significant improvement in their life. So the first thing you have to do is you've got to choose hope. Hope is having a reasonable expectation that if I do the things that I need to do, I'll get better. And that's not easy to do, but it's a choice that you make. And it begins with a choice that I'm going to find a way. And when you make that choice, that is hope. That's developing an expectation that I can get better. My life is worth living. My life is worth living richly and fully. I am valuable. I am wonderful, and I deserve to be happy. And it all begins with hope. It all begins with that choice. I am going to find a way to be happy. I'm going to find a way to live a rich and full life. I mentioned that I've suffered depression for over 17 years. 6 years ago, I started that choice. 6 years ago, I made the choice uh, to start getting better, to do whatever it took to get better. At the time, not only was I suffering uh, depression, but I had been into a season of 3 years where I had a migraine every single day. I lived in enormous pain, you know, uh, physically with these exploding headaches every day, as well as uh, the struggles of severe depression and anxiety. And I came to a point that it was like either I end my life or I find a way to make it rich and full. And I'll do whatever it took. That was my decision. And that's the decision I'm asking you to make today. To make that the decision is I don't care how hard it is. I don't care how hard I have to work. I don't care what I have to do. I'm going to find a way to live a rich and full life because you deserve it. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to have a rich and full life. It's not your fault that you have depression. It's not your fault that you have anxiety. It's not your fault that you've been through extreme traumas that are challenging your desire to live. But it is your choice to do something about it, and you can do something about it. I live a full and rich and happy life. Many people who come to my support group, and virtually I don't know of a single example of anybody that spent over 3 months in my support group that they're not living a fuller and happier life now. And so I'm here to tell you that you can do that. It's not easy. I'm not even going to suggest that this is easy, but it's a choice you have to make. And it's a choice to do no matter how hard it is or how you feel. Overcoming depression and anxiety and the results of extreme trauma begins with a choice. And that choice is I will do whatever I have to do in spite of how I feel. You can't wait till you feel better because you're not going to feel better. Look at your history. You've suffered for years and it's not gotten better. You can't wait till it gets better. I, waited and waited and waited. And I was, uh, you know, 11 or 12 years into my depression. I started depression and anxiety after my second battle with cancer. I wish I'd seen this video day one and could started my process of getting better and fighting for my mental health and fighting to live a full and happy life. My wife wishes that I would have done that because she had to struggle with me as I was, struggling all those years with severe depression and anxiety. It's not like I don't have depression and anxiety. I have that mental health condition. It is a diagnosis, but it is not my reality. I do not have to live my diagnosis. My existence is me and the wonderful life that I have. And the fact that my brain's not working quite right has nothing to do with whether I can live a full and happy life. It just means it's harder for me to do than other people who don't struggle the same things. I want you to know that hope is tenacious, it's aggressive, it's violent. You violently fight against your mental health conditions. You violently fight against the emotions that you have from the traumas that you've been through. You fight against depression. You fight against anxiety. If you've got schizophrenia, you fight against all those symptoms. If you're bipolar, you fight every day. You do what you have to do to get better. It's your choice to fight for your mental health. No one else can do it. If you don't do it, it won't get done. And you've got to fight from the moment that you get up in the morning to the moment that you go to bed at night. And I guarantee you, if you make that choice, if you choose hope, if you choose to do whatever you have to do to get better, you will find that you will get better. And so if you're thinking about ending your life, or you're just sick and tired of depression and anxiety controlling you, you have the power to change it. And it starts by making that choice every single day that no matter how I feel, I'm going to do the things that I need to do to get better. Why would you do this? Because you deserve to live a full and happy life. You deserve it. It's your birthright. Every human being deserves to live a full and happy life. It doesn't matter what your mental health diagnosis is. It doesn't matter what kind of trauma that you've been through in your life. You deserve to live a full and happy life. And because of your diagnosis or because of the trauma that you've been through, you may have to work harder than the average person, but you do deserve to live a full and happy life. And so before you think about ending it, before you think about giving up, I encourage you right now to make that choice that I will do whatever it takes to get better. I deserve the chance. I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to fight for it. I'm going to prove to myself that I can be happy, that I can live full. And it starts by today, at this moment, while you're listening to this video, you decide, I am going to do whatever it takes. That's the beginning point. And you do it because you're worth it. Just no other reason at all. You are worth it. You deserve to be happy. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I don't care what anybody else has ever said. I don't care what your parents have said, your teachers have said, your spouse has said, your brothers and sisters, people in society. You deserve to be happy, and you can. It's your choice. And but it's going to take work. The effects of trauma are hard on your psyche, and it takes time and work to get over it. If you have diagnosed depression or anxiety, or if you have it that's never been diagnosed, there's something chemically happening, or so for some reason that your brain tends to uh, look at the negative and look at the dangerous, and it takes time to retrain that. And so here are 3 brief things that you can do to get started. Number 1 is understand that with depression and anxiety or the results of severe trauma, that your brain lies to you. Now, there's a whole set of things that are called cognitive distortions and common ways that our brains lie to us. But, just understand that most of the negative things that you are thinking are not based on reality. They're deceptions that your brain has conjured up. But if you're suicidal right now, I want you to know that people do love you. You are not a burden to the people around you, and I guarantee you, there's not one person on this planet that's better off without you. That is, unless you're a violent person that beats up his wife or children every day. If you're a nice, decent person, no one in this world is better off without you. How do I know that? Because I work with people who have attempted suicide. Studies have been done of tens of thousands of people who've attempted suicide. And I work with people who have survived other people ending their lives in suicide. And the most disgusting person that I've ever known of who's ended suicide, the people around them have been traumatized because they are loved. My sister always pushed people away. But yet after she died, person after person, I think there was 6 different people that I never heard of that sought me out because they were so traumatized by her death. She lived drunk every single day of her life. She drank a fifth of vodka every single day, and she only weighed 105 pounds. But yet, when she passed away, there was a number of people besides family members, myself, my other sister, my parents, who came up and were just traumatized that she was lost. I'm carrying you. People do love you, whether you feel like it or not. You are not being, your existence is not a burden, and your family members don't feel that they would be better off without you. I know that these are three common things that everybody who is suicidal thinks, as three common things that people suffering with depression and anxiety think, but they're simply not true. They are lies. And I want you to grasp it, understand that you are valuable and you're worth being here. Even if they didn't, you are valuable and worth being here. But if you don't believe it, ask them. Ask your parents, ask your spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend, ask your friends if uh, you, they think that they would be better off without you. And I guarantee you, you're going to find out that none of them, unless you go and ask some specific enemy, but the people around you, the people that work with you, don't think that they'll be better off without you. Number two, work hard with your professionals. And there's all kinds of professionals that you can have. You can have a doctor, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a peer specialist, a sport group leader, a pastor, friends who care about you. But take those professionals and that you work with and work hard with them. Do the things that you talk about. Find the right mental health professional. Some people benefit from talk therapy, but most people I find who are suffering depression, anxiety, go a lot better with something like CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, where you learn to recognize the lies that your brain is telling you. If you have a therapist, or you're looking for one, make sure that your therapist's office has peer support professionals, because that's just an added level. You're working with a mental health professional is one thing, but having somebody in that office who's been where you are, and that's what you have to do to be a peer support professional. You have to suffer depression and anxiety and overcome it, or be well on your way to overcoming it. And working with people who understand from what you're going through or similar to what you're going through helps a lot. And the third type of professional situation is find a support group, find a mental health support group. There's something about being with people who've been there, who understand what you're talking about. Because one of the frustrations that we have with, when we suffer depression, anxiety, or the emotional results of extreme trauma, is that the people around us don't understand, and they can't understand. I know we're frustrated because they don't understand, but we have to realize they cannot possibly understand because they've not been there. And the only people who can understand are people who've been there. So going and hanging out with other people who are trying to get better, who've been there, can be a powerful help. And so one of them is a mental health support group. But if you got any other issues, there's all kinds of support groups. Find an appropriate support group. I do believe that if my sister would have stayed in rehab, if she would have stayed with AA, after she quit rehab all those different times, that she would be alive today. But she just wouldn't do what she needed to do to overcome this problem. If you've been assaulted, if you've experienced violence, you've been raped, or you have any specific issue, gambling, I don't care what it is, there are hundreds of types of support group. And if you have specific issues, find a support group for that issue. Your life's worth living. It's not worth dying. And so if you have to go to 3 or 4 different support groups to get better, do it. Do whatever it takes to get better, because this world is better off with you in it. Even though I don't know you, I know the entire world is better off because you're in it, and the world is going to be a not so good place if you leave it. You deserve to be happy. I desire for you to be happy. I desire for you to find what I found. And last but not least, start your day off right. I've talked about fighting the fight all day long. Well, the fight starts when you get up in the morning. It means you start off the day getting up and being ready. When I first started, I had a list of things um, that I went over every morning. I had kind of like a mantra. I got up, I looked in the mirror, and I said, you know, you are a wonderful person. You are loved. You deserve uh, to live. And today somehow is going to be a good day. It's how I started off every day. My next video is going to be part of a series called Living Victorious. It's just called Victorious, but it's about learning to live victorious over depression, anxiety, and emotional trauma. The first one that I'm going to make in that video is 10 things you can do to start your day off right when you suffer depression, anxiety, or mental trauma. And there's all kinds of things that you can do. I've got dozens of things listed in my book, Mental Health Recovery. And as I mentioned before, you can have it for free. I don't care if I make money. There's a link there, and you can go and you can download it. You can download my my workbook, my 60-day workbook, or you can download my gratitude journal. If this will help you, please do it, or just search the internet, find resources. But to start your day off right. So if you found this video helpful, or you think that it would be helpful to somebody who's thinking about suicide, or somebody who's suffering depression, anxiety, or mental trauma, refer it to it. Send them the link. I want them to get better. And if you're interested in the topics of living victorious over depression, subscribe to the channel. Because we'll have a lot of helpful videos. We'll cover everything from gratitude journals. I just went blank, but we'll have probably 12 different videos on things that you can do to improve your life through depression and anxiety. I wish you all the best. I wish you a full and happy life.